But one of the biggest downfalls that we've talked about that we see with our clients a lot is unrealistic expectations.
Right? Because I feel like for many of my clients, that's one of the biggest stumbling blocks they have is that they can't get over the fear of failure. So they don't even start in the first place.
And progress doesn't always mean step forward.
Yes.
I've learned some of the best progress happens when the house falls.
Struggle and feeling like a failure, perhaps because we feel like we didn't achieve what we set out to be, but maybe it is we didn't take into account many potential limitations that actually existed, and maybe we just needed to dial it back a little bit. Welcome everyone back to another episode of The Lighter Side of Heavy Things, an podcast series where two therapists kind of take some time out of their day to talk about and discuss some different topics or things that I guess come up as we work with our clients. And anyways, my name's Chris Clark, joined with Dwayne Horton. And anyways, today was kind of a follow-up with where we had left off last week, speaking about some of those ideas of change, right? We talked about that importance, owning your thoughts, and in the process of owning your thoughts, creating goals, and what's the difference between goals versus wishes.
Right.
And anyways, we're kind of continuing building off of that. And so I guess today, where would you like to start with that as we continue to build off of that idea?
Mm-hmm. You know, as we kind of talked, I think one of the things that would be good is to talk about preparation phase.
Yeah.
Right? You know, you don't build a boat without preparation. You don't build a country without a foundation and structure. You don't build a legacy without a plan.
Right.
They're not accidental things. I mean, we know this from people who get rich quick, like a lottery ticket, right? Most of those lose their money. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because they had no plan for money.
Yeah.
And that's a real problem. So if people don't have a plan, they plan to fail, right?
Right.
So setting up the process, okay, I want to change. That is an art.
Yes.
And those who master the idea setting and the preparation phase of a plan are much more likely to succeed at their goals, whatever they may be.
Mm-hmm.
Because like realistically, we kind of joke about this all the time. You know, how many people buy memberships to the gym and never use it?
Yeah.
Right.
Right. They buy it with the intent, right? I want to change, and maybe if I have this will motivate me enough to go use it.
Right. But I mean, how many people have subscriptions to, plans that they don't remember that they have subscriptions to? Yeah. They're like, it just becomes one of those, right?
Uh-huh.
And that is a real problem. So how do we evoke change? So the preparation thing is. So to me, one of the first steps that needs to happen is we got to create a clear picture of it.
Yes.
But it's got to be something that it's not like, I have to, get good grades because my parents won't like me,
mm-hmm.
right? Or they'll get angry at me and I can't drive.
Right.
I mean, when you're younger, that type of punishment works better. When we're older and we have the ability to get what we want, there's no motivation, no fire or passion. And like, if I don't get this, I had a friend, this is a real story. He wanted to lose weight and he's like, okay, I got to go off sugar. So his friend said, okay, great. Write me $1,000 check. And the friend's like, well, why? And he says, okay, well, if you write me $1,000 check, if you eat sugar this week, I'm going to go cash that. And I'm keeping that $1,000. And my friend's like, okay, that's going to be good. I was like, dude, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
It was like, and each week the dynamics changed of what was going to happen. The conditions, I guess, would change about what had to happen. Well, eventually he slipped up and he paid that guy $1,000.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that type of punishment, that negative reinforcement doesn't always work.
I want to be the friend on that check.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Like we should set up a company though.
Yeah.
Like
the Change It company.
The changing company, right?
Yeah.
Like write me a $500 check and if you fail, I win.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put a body cam on you just to make sure.
That's right. We're gonna have hook you up to a constant glucose monitor and test your blood.
Big brother.
Exactly. So setting up something that is, the best idea of setting up a plan is one that is something that I really genuinely want.
Right. And that makes a lot of sense because, like you mentioned, that idea of, a teenager or a kid being like, well, I'll just get good grades to get mom off my back, right?
Right.
Maybe eventually they learn to like to learn, they learn to love learning. But if all that motivator is, I just don't want to get in trouble, then, that only works for so long.
Right.
Right. Just as the same, I guess, if we go into an adult and let's say that it's substance use issue or something like that. I want to stop using substances so my PO gets off my back or the judge leaves me alone or whatever it might be. Okay, yeah, your sobriety will be fine, but what's going to happen once you don't have anyone else writing you? Oh, you're probably going to fall back into old behaviors, right?
Those safeguards are gone. And what's funny is all those behaviors started because, as we've talked before on the other podcasts, is there was a reason they sustained. They came into the picture. They did a purpose. They had a purpose. They served something for us, right? So if the guardrails are there to cut out, to make us, force us in line, that's not going to necessarily keep us in line.
Right.
What happens when the bumpers are off? People fall into, the gutter balls all the time, right?
Yeah. And what I think is really interesting, you bring up this idea of preparation, and maybe I guess to go on using a metaphor that since we've used sports metaphors before, right?
Yeah.
But let's talk about like cooking or baking.
Oh,
right?
Yes, I'll do that one all the time.
But it's like for example, right? You're not going to go make cinnamon rolls without first checking to make sure that you have yeast and that you have the flour and you have,
Unless you're impulsive.
Right. It's 2 a.m. cinnamon rolls. Yeah.
Munchy cinnamon rolls right there.
But if you want the best outcome for whatever it is that you're throwing together in the kitchen, right, you're going to take time to prep everything to make sure that everything's ready to go at a specific certain time if it is a time-oriented type of a deal.
Right.
Ingredients are ready, all that sort of stuff, right?
The mise en place.
Yeah.
Of baking, yes.
And if not, then you're kind of throwing caution to the wind at a certain point, right?
You run a good, you may achieve it, you may not, right? But the likelihood of you actually reaching your goal, making a great bread or a great cinnamon roll here, decreases drastically, right?
Right.
So great preparation work. Having time to go into it. And this is partly why we chose change for December.
Yeah.
Because January is coming. People have weeks to plan this. So write it out. Take time. Evaluate what you really want. What would build passion? What if you made a change in your life and that change occurred, would it make a significant difference? Or would it just be like,
Right.
You want it to be like, yes, it would make the difference here. So you're identifying all those reasons that come up there, right?
Right. And I think that with that kind of, again, speaks to what we mentioned is that desire with the change, right? If it's just like, well, I guess I want to try making cinnamon rolls, cool. But if it's, I want to make the best cinnamon rolls, then you automatically are going to have more buy-in to the process.
And only if you like it, right?
Yes.
If you bake and like, this sucks, you're not going to do it. That's why it needs to have the passion for you. You want to have that idea that this is fun. I want to research more. I want to learn more. Because then it's feeding that fuel, right? But kind of on that is the idea of when we set our goals, they need to be realistic. I will never be Bobby Flay. Like I sadly have come to that.
Yeah.
Because I just don't have the passion to cook as much as that guy has passion to cook.
Right.
His passion way outshines mine. And there's reality in that. Right? And so having a realistic goal that is understanding my level of commitment to it, my level of desire for it, and what I'm willing to do to put into it. How much am I willing to give up for it? Because when you achieve a goal, you're going to sacrifice something.
And I think taking that outline actually can help you in many cases from perhaps getting yourself in over your head, and then we struggle and feeling like a failure, perhaps because we feel like we didn't achieve what we set out to be. But maybe it is we didn't take into account many potential limitations that actually existed, and maybe we just needed to dial it back a little bit.
I love what you brought in there, the idea of failure. Because it's not something I actually thought about, but I thought about this week, clients that I've already had, and failure needs to be built into our system, our plan.
Mm-hmm.
How do we respond when that comes? And that will be one of the things that we talk about. But failure, we need to plan on it. So what does it have? How do we respond when things don't go well?
Yeah.
Right? Every good preparation plan has a contingency plan. What am I going to do? Not just be like, oh crap, I failed. Now what?
Mm-hmm.
Right? We can't expect to know everything we need to know to accomplish our goal at the beginning.
Yeah.
Nobody does. There is absolutely no invention made that the person who created that invention knew exactly what they were getting at the beginning.
Right. Like, I think, for example, do you know the story behind like the Post-it note and how that ended up happening? Right. Like the idea
that's an amazing one.
They were trying to create a glue.
Yes.
That would be better than super glue or something like that. Anyways, long story short, didn't work out that way, right? But then someone found that it had an amazing property that when utilized on the back of a piece of paper, you could stick it on a surface and remove it, but it still was sticky.
Yes.
Right?
Well, Teflon was found that way.
Mm-hmm.
The final product of the car has ever been changing. Like everything's changing.
Yeah.
We got to understand that failure is part of the learning process. So have a plan for that in our preparation phase. But one of the biggest downfalls that we've talked about that we see with our clients a lot is unrealistic expectations, such as get rich quick.
Oh,
right?
Yes.
The get rich quick scheme, by next month I'm going to have, a 6-pack and full head of hair or something, right?
Yeah. Has that worked out
That's
yet?
my dream.
Oh, that's yours?
Yeah, no.
But yeah, that idea to get rich quick, right? Where we have clients that come in and say, I want to be unburdened by this trauma by next month. And it's like,
it took you 10 years to get here.
Yeah.
Right? It's 10 years of trauma here.
And it took me, a couple of months of following up with you to schedule the first appointment.
Right.
And we're only going to be meeting twice this month.
Uh-huh.
We're going to undo all that in 2-hour sessions, right?
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, the get rich quick, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where I think that's important for people to understand, to manage what those expectations are going to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to have progress, but don't be expecting perhaps overnight progress.
And progress doesn't always mean step forward.
Yes.
I've learned some of the best progress happens when the house falls.
Mm.
And then you have to, because it wasn't that what you were building didn't have the foundation needed to sustain it.
Right.
And so you can kind of start building out new angles, new wings, reinforcing structure so that it will, when you build up, it gets stronger.
And I think you bring up a really important point when it comes to those ideas of failure, right? Because I feel like for many of my clients, that's one of the biggest stumbling blocks that they have, is that they can't get over the fear of failure.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't even start in the first place, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's important to understand that failure is naturally a part of the changing process.
That's part of the learning curve.
Right?
Yeah.
And that if we accept from the very get-go that I'm going to fail at some point in trying to reach this goal, well, you've already, accomplished a lot more than being so afraid to not even try.
Right.
So just accepting that from the get-go, I am going to fail at some point with something, but it doesn't mean that I can't keep moving forward. That's huge.
Which is a skill set that you learn along the way. Sometimes you got to adjust the way you see, the way you look at the world, right? Growth isn't meaning you're losing 20 pounds in a month.
Right.
Sometimes growth is actually meaning you lost 1 pound.
Yeah.
Because you learned the grit to stick through it,
mm-hmm.
and what that 1 pound cost.
Yeah.
You got to be grateful for the smallest, most minute changes, as much as you are for all the large changes. So sometimes it refines our vision in the sense of, what am I recognizing? You have to look deeply to see the change that is happening
right
along the way. And that could be a conversation for further, but that's something in the preparation phase to learn about, right?
Yeah.
And we got to understand that growth is not get rich scheme is it's a falsehood. It doesn't sustain, because people who typically get rich who don't understand money, um, or people who lose weight quickly, like those weight loss shows,
Oh.
often gained it all back. Why? Because they knew how hard it was to get it, but they never addressed the real issue. The issue is they liked food.
Yeah.
Right.
They liked food, sedentary lifestyles,
Mhm.
those sorts of things. Yeah.
And our culture is unfortunately set up that way. I have to force myself to get up and move and weight lift and do stuff.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm screwed. Like, I'd be really big if I didn't.
You just
I
don't,
gotta.
you just don't pop up on the treadmill every morning
Oh,
and your
heck
legs just
no.
start moving.
No. Oh no. But so building on that, you got to understand that you got to have realistic goals, a timeline. We're going to break it down into smaller goals. What are measurable things that I could see?
Yes.
If I want to build a computer company, I'm going to set up goals of like, I got to know how to put things together. I need to know what I want to do, the vision I want. Do I want it to be just a generic idea, or do I want it to be top of the line product only? Who am I selling it to? If you're building a business plan, that's what you look at. Similarly, if I'm building a business plan for me to change, I need to know, what do I want? How will I know if I'm achieving it? Well, what will others tell me? The feedback I want. What is the motivation for it? And it needs to be for me.
Yes.
If it's like, oh, if I lose weight, people will start liking me. The reality is you lose weight, you're going to have a lot of people hate you. If I get rich, people will actually think I'm good. No, people will be jealous that you're rich.
Yeah.
That's all those goals. No, they got to be internal.
Mm-hmm.
This is something I love. This is something I read because I like to read. I write because I like to write. I exercise because this is what I like to do.
Yeah.
Not because I have to do it so I don't gain weight. So people like me.
Right.
Organizing our thoughts so it's for us, has the passion, the fuel. We go into, the setting a failure plan. But then we need to start, kind of almost, we got to write it down. A good goal will always fail unless it's written down.
Mm-hmm.
Because, even language itself would not survive if we didn't have a written version of it.
Yeah. And I think what's important too is recognizing that this goal is and should be an evolving goal.
Yes.
As well, right? Because like you said, you mentioned the people who lose a lot of weight, right? And it's almost like once people think about it and I reach this number, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But it's more than that. That's why they weren't able to maintain it, because there's a lifestyle surrounding maintaining that. Mm-hmm. And so the goal isn't necessarily, I want to lose X amount of weight, right? Yes, in the short term, yes, we want to have those short measurable.
And that could be the measurable part, the tracking piece, right?
Yeah. But the overall, maybe it's, I want to have a better, healthier lifestyle because I want to see my grandkids.
Mm-hmm.
You know, things of that nature.
Exactly. It's because it's built into everything else I'm already doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, here's my health goal and then here's my work goal. That's how some of those exercise companies made equipment, right? For desks, right?
Yeah.
You got the pedal, right?
The elliptical under your desk.
The elliptical under the desk, or you got you can raise your desk now and you can walk while doing it, right?
Yeah.
You got to incorporate those two things together. You can't have segmented spaces necessarily.
Yes.
Even so, having all those ideas, the trackable, the passion, the energy, writing it down is a way to keep track of it and also to review it.
Mm-hmm.
But then at some point we kind of got to review art. So we come up with a grand vision. So how I often tell my clients is, my second session is often my first session is like, hey, tell me about you. Let's kind of get a quick, the insurance questions out of the way, right?
Yeah.
All the things that we need to know about you so I could say insurance, this is why they need help, right?
Yep.
Second session, I always say, I want you to tell me now what you want. And I always say, give me a 5-year plan. I don't need a 4K Ultra HD picture. All I need is a goal, something in the distance. So like if we're lost in the woods, right? All we need to do is identify something that's stable in a direction I know, right?
Right.
A mountain peak. Because what always comes to my mind when I tell my clients this is like when there was this time my buddy and we were out. I used to do a lot of mountain biking when I was younger. We were way out in the sticks, and we were going down this trail because we really wanted to hit this peak. But then as we were going down this trail to get on that peak, all of a sudden we came around the bend, and there was this just giant kind of like a valley mixed with a different peak that was kind of tucked behind.
Uh-huh.
That I was like, dude, if we look on that, we're going to look over the valley differently. And I was like, let's go over there. But we would never have gotten to that turnoff unless we had started on the trail.
Right.
And so that adaptability, having it written down and be able to reevaluate it as we're starting to gather stuff together, we need to be able to reevaluate our goal. What do I need to start? If I want a mountain bike, do I own a mountain bike?
Yeah.
Right. If I want to start a computer company, what do I know about business? What do I know about computers? Not much. Like, that was a terrible idea.
Well, I mean, the bike, for example, right? I want to get into mountain biking. Okay. Do you know how much even one costs? Do you know what is a good mountain bike? What is not a good mountain bike?
Yeah. What type of suspension are you wanting?
Yeah.
A full suspension, or where do you want the rear shock to be?
Right. Are you going to be mainly doing downhill, or are you going to be doing cross country mountain biking, like
street biking? If you want to bring it more into street, how much are you going to be on the roads?
Yeah.
Things like that. Narrowing it down, even if you say, hey, I want a bike because I think it's fun. Great. Then narrow down what type of biking.
Yeah.
If you want to lose weight, okay, great. What do you like to do? Is it painful for you to run? In the sense like your ankles, your knees can't sustain it. Then running's a terrible idea. Yeah. Maybe biking's a better idea. Or if you're like, I get bored. Running's a terrible idea.
Yeah. But I think you bring up a good idea. Again, coming back to encompassing it, with that idea, we'll say health related. You could have someone just say, I just want to be able to play with my grandkids and not be out of breath.
Okay. And there's lots of ways you could do it.
Yeah.
Pick up kickboxing. That's a cardio exercise right there, right? And it's working on flexibility, it's working on strength, and it's working on movement, like controlled precision movement.
Yeah.
But if they hate kickboxing, okay, what are you wanting? The world of exercise is huge.
Yeah. Is it do you find yourself, is it out of breath trying to run to keep up with them? Is it getting up, down? Like what specifically about keeping up with them is hard? Right.
So you're analyzing what you already need and know about your goal, what you want, right? The resources you have to do it. I have some money to invest. Here's what I can do, right? I have time in my mornings that I think I can exercise, right? If we're going to stick with the health one, right? But then what don't I know? That's probably one of the biggest trip ups with my clients that I spend a lot of time with in the preparation phase. What don't I know? What information would help me on this, right? Such as, it's very common for people who are out of shape to jump so heavy into their goal that they end up injuring themselves.
Yes.
So understanding that, this is a turtle pace is much better than a rabbit pace here.
Yeah.
Understanding what your muscles can do. How do you heal? How do you recover? So maybe you need to look up nutrition facts.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Well, and I think it also brings into the idea too. I mean, we're getting more into the action phase now when it comes to change, but sometimes you can't necessarily know everything until you actually do it.
For sure. But you could plan on some of it, right?
Yes.
Like you could be like, you know what? I had a heart attack last year. I ought to probably get my heart checked, right? Yep. And let's go talk to my doctor before I jump into this, rigorous, cardio biking workout, right? Like, have you ever seen those spin classes?
Yeah.
That was when I was fit, went to those, I was like, y'all are nuts. Like, I thought it would be fun, but they were I thought I was in good shape. I was running marathons. Like that was next level crazy. Like my
Yeah.
legs could run a marathon. They could not to keep up with those people.
Spin classes.
Those spin
man.
classes, right? Like, you know,
I always now hover for 2 minutes, and you're like, oh.
what does hover look like?
Yeah.
I got the biggest wedge. You hope no one's behind me.
Yeah. That's why it's always dark in those
Yeah,
classes.
thank
They
goodness,
turn the
right?
lights off.
Oh, but yeah, like spin classes. Like, but you got to be like realistic. Do I need to prep for it? Because
Mhm.
it's still a prep. It's not just an action phase because you're going to reevaluate every time during the action phase. But you're going to be like, can I physically start this?
Yes.
Is it safe for me?
Mhm.
Or should I start something different? Should I learn about weightlifting and the movement of the weights? You know, the stability that is required before I jump into it. We live in a world where information's free and everywhere.
Yep.
You know, there's good information and bad information, right? So the quality of it kind of depends. But I can promise you, most of the time, money is not necessary.
Mhm.
You could go get a book. You can look on YouTube and look at any health fit. If you find somebody, a professional who's got 5 million viewers or something, you know, 300,000, some of their data is probably pretty good.
Yeah.
You don't get to that many followers without that much you having good information,
Yeah.
right?
And if something's wrong, just go look in the comments, right? 'Cause
Right.
Someone's going to tell them they're wrong.
Someone will tell you. It's like the world of public opinion there, right?
Yeah.
And it's the truth of it. Go and research a little bit. Once you kind of have your goal written out and you have your main picture, I always strongly encourage my clients to come back to that step one as the passion level.
Mm.
Now that you know what it looks like, you kind of have a rough sketch, you know your peak in the distance. I want to know now what I really want to know is, are you willing to sacrifice it?
Right.
Now that you have more information, is it worth jumping on that journey or should we adjust it before you jump on it?
Yeah, it comes back to that idea of, you know, the 2 a.m. cinnamon rolls. You're laying in your bed and you're thinking, oh, that sounds so good, right? And so maybe you hop up and you get to the kitchen and you start getting things out. And as you start getting more things out, all of a sudden your passion, you know what? Those don't sound so good. Maybe the Cheez-It, like just I'll get a handful of Cheez-Its.
Yeah.
That's my level of motivation right now.
Right.
And then I'll go back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay, you know, if something like that comes along. But you're right, it is very important to look at what is your motivation. Because maybe you start out cinnamon rolls 2 a.m. Great. You start getting stuff out, and then halfway through getting stuff out, you're like, I don't want to do that. Now, guess what? Because you didn't check your motivation beforehand, now you have stuff to put away.
Yeah. Now it's like, but I think it's also it's detrimental to the soul. It can be. I mean, we talked about failure, but you also brought up something that was important in that. Like, if your goal is to lose weight, you want to look at what are the triggers that sustain your your weight problem, right?
Right.
Such as, I eat when I get stressed or anxious. Right? You want to know your own factors that contribute into that, right?
I keep a candy bowl nearby.
Yeah, it's like I got the secret stash.
Yeah.
I picked out all the favorite treats from the Halloween treats.
That's right. Dad tax.
Dad tax. My kids give you a shirt like that. But yeah, you gotta look at your own weaknesses where you're likely to fail in part of the preparation phase.
Right.
I almost forgot that, but that's a good one. But then you reevaluate. Is the sacrifice worth it? If it's no, that doesn't mean your efforts were wrong. Now it's adjusted.
Yes.
Let's adjust to it. Let's do the Cheez-Its and let's quickly put things away before. I mean, it's better to have just the ingredients on the counter than all of them in a mixing bowl. Now you're like, what do I do with this? What do I throw it away or do I just put it in a bag or a bowl and store it and then throw it away later? Like, do I make plans for it later? If you're just putting stuff away, put it away. Reevaluating is just like, it's not a big deal.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? That's a good point that you mentioned. Because you know what? Sometimes with goals, if you haven't honestly thought it all the way through, there is a point that you end up reaching where it might be too late to go back, and you just got to go through it.
Yeah,
you know?
sometimes you gotta go. You gotta eat that sandwich, dude.
You got to let that dough rise.
Oh man, yeah, those are terrible moments. Or you you just take the financial hit, right?
Yeah.
You know,
But honestly, if anything, you end up learning from that,
Mhm.
right? I mean, it goes with any of the great, scientists and inventors and other things like that. They don't necessarily look at failures in the way that most people look at failure. They often look at it in a way of, oh, well, I know not to do that again.
Right. And that's why we have to have a plan to deal with failure.
Yeah.
We have to have a plan to deal with disappointment. We have to have a plan deal with setback. We've got to change the way we think. That's why we started last time with owning that thought.
Yes.
Change that thought. Keep that thought there. If you get to that point and you're like, yes, for 99% of this or 95%, there's little things, make a few tweaks. But once you're in, commit and then start acting.
Mhm.
Follow through with that plan. Keep that plan close by. And next time we'll kind of talk about what do we do when we plateau, or other things that come up like that. Like we're now acting. Now what? Right?
Yeah. I'm doing it.
I'm doing it. Here I go.
Oh, yeah.
Look at me, Mom. I'm riding a bike.
Yeah.
And then you crash.
Yeah. But I think that is very important. That idea of knowing what to do when we plateau, or when we hit that setback, or something like that ends up happening. What do we do to overcome? Because I feel like those are many areas for people that prevent the change from occurring.
Yes. But I think there's so much, if you get to that point and you're like, yes, you have to commit immediately. Act.
Yeah.
Jump on it. Don't wait till Monday, if it's like, Tuesday the week before, right?
Mm-hmm.
Act that moment. Take that risk right then. Don't allow time for thinking to happen.
Right.
Just commit. Say, you're right, I've done enough thinking. Don't play the what if game forever. Jump.
Right.
Go. Like, what's the worst that could happen? You might fail, but we have a plan.
Mm-hmm. That's why the prep's important.
Right. Jump. Trust yourself. And go. But, we'll keep talking because this whole month is about change.
Yes.
We could talk forever and we could share stories. I know. I had a lot come to mind. I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't want to squirrel too bad. I'm trying very hard to stay focused today. But, thanks for everyone who's watching. And if you have questions about change, ideas, comments, screams of outrage, whatever,
yeah,
leave a note. Come to Facebook. Join us on Instagram, Facebook. I'm starting a little short Instagram
our
thing.
shorts.
I think I forgot to post it last week on the Facebook and Instagram thing. But it's just kind of my thoughts that come up throughout that day. What it's like to be a therapist. And for me, it's therapeutic. That's why I'm loving this. Like, I don't care if we get viewers, but this is fun for me.
Yeah.
It gets my mind thinking about what I love. I love therapy. I love watching people change. And I love being prepared to help people change.
Yes.
So like us, shout out to us. We'd love to hear from you.
Mm-hmm.
Until next time.
Yeah. Until next time, we'll see you guys later.
Take care.